Chapter 1. The First Stirrings of Dawn, Waking the Sleeping City. The great Victorian city, a sprawling colossus of brick and stone, did not awaken with a sudden jolt, but with a quiet, almost imperceptible sigh. Long before the first clamor of traffic, or the strident call of a street vendor, life would begin to stir beneath its vast, slumbering canopy. Imagine the deepest hours of night, when the gas lamps, those sentinels of the urban gloom, still held sway, casting their elongated, blurred pools of light upon the wet, silent cobblestones. A thin, ethereal mist would often hang low, softening the sharp edges of buildings, transforming familiar streets into a dreamscape of muted grays and deep indigos. The formidable architecture of terraced houses, stretching in solemn rows, seemed to recede into this soft obscurity, their closed windows like sleeping eyes, holding countless dreams and unspoken stories within. This was a time of profound stillness, a lingering moment of peace before the awakening of a world that would soon quicken its pace. As the deepest indigo of the pre-dawn sky began its imperceptible transition to a faint, bruised gray, the city would hold its breath. The air, crisp and cold, carried only the faintest whispers, the distant, muffled clatter of an early cart, perhaps, or the soft, almost unheard plink of a single water drip from a mossy gutter, a tiny, liquid rhythm against the pervasive silence. A careful listener, attuned to the subtle shifts in the nocturnal world, might catch the faint, solitary call of a bird, an early robin or a sparrow, signaling the first fragile stirrings of life. This was the moment of liminality, where night slowly, patiently ceded its domain to the nascent light. Our gaze, if we were there, would drift across the facades of these sleeping houses, each a testament to Victorian solidity and domestic privacy. We might linger on the intricate patterns of wrought iron railings, cold to the touch, guarding quiet front steps. The sash windows, tightly closed and dark with drawn curtains, offered no glimpse into the lives unfolding within. Yet, even in this stillness, details emerged. The polished brass of a doorknob, catching a faint, nascent gleam from the distant gas lamp, or the subtle textures of aged brick, its individual imperfections revealed by the growing light. The very silence was palpable, a heavy blanket that would soon begin to lift, allowing the first human sounds to filter through. Then, the earliest, most intimate signs of waking. Not a grand unveiling, but a subtle hint. Behind a single, uncurtained window, perhaps in an upper story, a faint glow would begin to appear, a soft, internal warmth slowly blooming. This was the silent signal of a lamp being lit within, a gaslight hissing softly, banishing the lingering shadows from a private chamber. A blurred shadow might then move gently behind the glass, an indistinct figure beginning their day. The focus here is on the implication of awakening, the quiet mystery of a new day beginning for one individual, unseen, unheard, yet profoundly present. These isolated lights would begin to appear, scattered across the sleeping street, like tiny, warm stars emerging in the fading night. In the narrow, labyrinthine back alleys and silent mews, the very first workers of the city would begin their rounds. Imagine a solitary figure, perhaps a chimney sweep, emerging from the shadows. Their movements would be deliberate, unhurried, their sack of brushes and tools barely making a sound as they navigated the damp, grimy cobblestones. The air would carry the faint, earthy scent of soot, mixed with the dampness of the pre-dawn. They were the silent vanguard, the first to break the night spell, their labor essential to the comfort of the waking city, yet largely unseen and unheard by the occupants of the houses they served. These quiet figures, often of humble means, began their long day while the rest of the city still dreamt, their existence a testament to the unglamorous, foundational work that underpinned Victorian life. As more and more lamps were lit, a pervasive sign of the city's awakening would begin to ascend into the cold morning air: smoke. From hundreds, then thousands, of chimney pots, thin curls of gray smoke would begin to unfurl against the pale, bruised sky. At first, a single, delicate wisp, almost imperceptible against the vastness, then gradually growing thicker, steadily accumulating. This was the silent, visual symphony of hearths being lit across the city, coal fires coaxed into life to banish the morning chill, to boil water for tea, to prepare the morning meal. The smell of burning coal, distinct and earthy, would slowly begin to permeate the air, a comforting, familiar scent that spoke of warmth and domesticity. The sight of these rising plumes, a network of quiet exhalations, was a powerful indicator of the city's slow, collective stirring, house by house, family by family. The early morning air, often damp and heavy, might carry a thin layer of frost or dew, glistening faintly on a window pane, tracing delicate patterns on a low garden gate, or clinging to the intricate spokes of a cast-iron lamp post. As the earliest, weakest rays of light, still diffused and hesitant, touched these surfaces, they would shimmer with a subtle, fleeting beauty, catching the nascent light in a silent dance. This frost hinted at the cold, crisp air that still clung to the streets, a reminder of the night's chill that would soon be dispelled by the growing warmth of human activity. And then, breaking the profound stillness, the first sounds of purposeful human labor would emerge from the quiet streets. Imagine a single figure, perhaps an elderly man, a street sweeper, moving with a methodical, gentle rhythm. His long-handled broom, crafted from sturdy bristles, would make a soft, continuous swishing sound as it swept across the uneven cobblestones, gathering the dust and detritus of the night. The sound was not harsh or jarring, but a quiet, almost soothing rhythm, a steady beat accompanying the emergence of the new day. The street, still mostly empty save for the solitary figure, would be bathed in the soft, growing light of the nascent day, a gentle progression from gloom to clarity. His work was foundational, preparing the city's arteries for the daily flow of commerce and life, performed with a quiet dignity, a humble contribution to the city's awakening. He was a silent guardian of the city's cleanliness, his presence a subtle sign of the impending bustle. This unhurried, purposeful work, performed as the city slowly began to stretch and yawn, provided a calming underscore to the first stirrings of life beneath the cobblestones, an invitation to embrace the quiet beauty in the overlooked moments of a Victorian dawn. Chapter 2: The Morning Commute, a Quiet Flow of Humanity. As the mist begins to thin and the gas lamps offer their last, lingering glow, the Victorian city begins its deeper awakening. This is the hour of the morning commute, a quiet flow of humanity emerging from their homes, not yet the torrent of midday, but a steady, purposeful stream. The air, though still crisp, now carries the faint, mingled sense of coal smoke, damp earth, and perhaps the very first distant aroma of baking bread. The streets, once empty canvases, now receive their first strokes of human presence, a subtle symphony of movement and anticipation. Imagine the streets at this liminal hour, still holding a vestige of the night's stillness, yet subtly quickening. The light is soft, the early morning sun, though not yet fully asserting itself, now casts a slightly brighter, more diffuse glow, painting the scene in gentle sepia tones. Figures begin to appear from doorways and side streets, distinct in their individual forms, yet part of a larger, unhurried flow. They walk with a quiet determination, their footsteps muffled by the damp cobblestones, their forms often softened by the lingering atmospheric mist. These are the clerks, the shop girls, the junior professionals, the skilled laborers, the unseen engines of the city's daily life, embarking on their journeys with a sense of quiet purpose. The horse-drawn conveyances, the handsome cabs and early omnibuses, are still sparse, their wheels and hooves making a softer, more resonant sound on the damp surfaces, appearing in the distance as soft, moving blurs, adding to the gentle, almost dreamlike quality of the emerging day. Our gaze might then narrow, focusing on individual figures as they make their way. Picture a well-dressed gentleman, perhaps a merchant or a solicitor, distinguished by his tall top hat, gleaming faintly in the soft light. He walks with a steady, unhurried gait, his stride even and measured, perhaps carrying a rolled umbrella, a silent companion against the city's unpredictable climate. Our eyes linger on the subtle textures of his dark wool coat, its fabric absorbing the damp morning air, or the faint gleam of his polished leather boots as they meet the wet cobblestones, leaving momentary, subtle impressions on the glistening surface. He moves with a quiet dignity, his thoughts perhaps already turning to the day's ledger books or legal briefs, his internal world a private sanctuary as he navigates the awakening streets. Nearby, a young shop girl or a clerk, perhaps carrying a small, practical bag containing her midday meal, moves with a quiet determination. Her simple, yet neat, attire, a plain dress or a tidy coat, is highlighted by the soft, democratic light of the morning. Her eyes, though not seen directly, convey a focused, internal world, her mind perhaps already anticipating the tasks of the day, or simply enjoying the brief, quiet moments of her walk before the inevitable bustle of work begins. Each individual, a singular thread, contributes to the rich, slowly weaving tapestry of the morning commute, their quiet presence a testament to the city's intricate, interconnected life. The city's arteries, still unclogged by the full surge of daytime traffic, allowed for the measured progression of its earliest forms of public transport. The horse-drawn omnibus, a large, multi-passenger vehicle, would slowly and deliberately make its way down a wide, still relatively empty street. The powerful horses, their breath visible in the cool air, would move with a steady, rhythmic clip-clop, their hooves making a deep, muffled thud on the cobblestones. The omnibus itself would sway gently, almost imperceptibly, its interior dimly lit, revealing the quiet figures of early passengers, seated in silence, perhaps contemplating the day ahead or simply enjoying the peaceful journey. This lumbering yet reliable conveyance was a lifeline for many, transporting them from distant suburbs to the heart of the city's commercial districts. For those with more means or a greater need for speed, the hansom cab offered a swifter, more private passage. This elegant, two-wheeled carriage, pulled by a single, often more spirited horse, would move at a brisk but controlled pace, its wheels cutting smoothly through the lingering dampness of the street. A solitary passenger, perhaps a professional rushing to an early appointment, would be nestled inside, their presence a silent counterpoint to the quiet precision of the cab's movement through the emerging city. The soft jingle of the horse's harness, the subtle creak of the carriage, and the muffled rhythm of hooves against stone were the only sounds accompanying its passage, a quiet counterpoint to the broader, slower movements of the omnibus. These streams of commuters converged upon specific urban intersections or landmarks, which would slowly, incrementally, come to life. Imagine a quiet bridge over a misty river, its stone arches reflecting softly in the still water below. A few figures, softened by the atmospheric conditions, would be seen crossing, their forms almost merging with the morning haze. In the distance, the faint, elegant outlines of church spires or the more robust silhouettes of factory chimneys would begin to emerge from the mist, providing a sense of scale and purpose to the awakening landscape, without being overwhelming or jarring. The river itself, flowing silently beneath the bridge, seemed to carry the quiet promise of the new day. Further on, a corner near a quiet railway station entrance would reveal another subtle, organized flow. Figures would slowly converge upon the station entrance, their brief presence at the threshold followed by their disappearance into the vast, bustling interior. This visual hints at the silent, organized pulse of early train travel, the quiet efficiency of a system that would soon transport thousands, all without showing the trains themselves. The very air around the station entrance would carry a subtle blend of coal dust and anticipation, a deeper hum beneath the city's waking sounds. The ground beneath their feet, the very cobblestones themselves, played a silent, significant role in this morning's symphony. Worn smooth by countless footsteps and horse hooves, still damp from the night's moisture or the morning's mist, they would gleam faintly, reflecting the soft, diffused light, appearing like a vast, irregular mosaic. Each individual stone, a silent witness to generations of commutes, bore the subtle impressions left by passing hooves and polished shoe leather. The sounds of this quiet flow were understated, a gentle chorus of human and animal movement. The soft squeak of shoe leather as a foot was lifted and placed, the muffled shuffle of boots on damp stone, the faint, almost musical jangling of a horse's harness as a cab moved past. These were the subtle accompaniments to the morning's progress, sounds that would soon be subsumed by the louder cacophony of the day, but which, in these early hours, held a singular clarity and rhythm. The visuals, perhaps focusing on the ground as blurry figures pass by, subtly imply these sounds, allowing the listener to imagine themselves immersed in the gentle auditory texture of the awakening city. As the final image of the damp, reflecting cobblestones gently fades to black, it leaves behind the faint, lingering echo of the morning's quiet rhythms, a peaceful invitation to deepen your rest, as the Victorian city slowly, gracefully, awakens to its daily purpose. Chapter 3: The Market's Gentle Stir, First Vendors and Fragrant Air. As the city continues its gradual awakening, a new and subtle symphony begins to unfold, distinct from the quiet hum of residential streets. Our gentle footsteps now lead us towards the heart of the city's sustenance, to the market square, a place that, even in its burgeoning activity, maintained a unique and calming rhythm. Long before the main thoroughfares hummed with the full clamor of the day, the market began its own quiet stir, an olfactory and visual prelude to the day's provisions. Imagine, if you will, a vast, empty market square, still shrouded in the lingering pre-dawn mist. The cobblestones, damp and slick, mirror the faint, dying glow of the distant gas lamps, casting long, distorted reflections that dance softly with the cooling night air. Rows upon rows of empty stalls, their canvas awnings furled or gently swaying with an unseen, soft breeze, stretch into the soft obscurity of the morning haze. There is a palpable sense of quiet anticipation, a space holding its breath before the influx of human activity. The only sounds are the almost imperceptible whispers of that pre-dawn breeze, rustling unseen leaves or the edges of canvas, or the faint, distant murmur of the city yet to fully awaken, a deep, underlying drone that acts as a comforting background. This is a moment of potential, a canvas awaiting its vibrant, aromatic palette. Then, the first, solitary figures begin to arrive, emerging from the surrounding side streets like quiet apparitions. These are the early vendors, the hardy souls whose livelihoods depend on the earliest hours. Our gaze drifts slowly across these first arrivals. Perhaps we witness a costermonger's cart, a sturdy, two-wheeled conveyance laden with fresh, dew-kissed produce, being pushed or pulled slowly into the square. The effort is visible in the straining posture of the figure, their breath visible in the cool air, but their movements are deliberate, efficient. The cart's wooden wheels make a muffled, rhythmic rumble on the uneven cobblestones, a soft, resonant sound that breaks the profound silence without jarring it. This is the sound of honest labor, of food making its journey from farm to city. As more vendors appear, the scene remains one of quiet, methodical preparation. Faces are still shadowed, expressions indistinct, as each vendor begins the painstaking process of unpacking their wares. A gentle animation might show a heavy sack of potatoes being carefully lowered to the damp ground, its contents settling with a soft, earthy thud. Or perhaps a woven basket of eggs is uncovered, revealing their fragile, pale forms. Each action is precise, unhurried, a practiced ritual. Tarpaulins are unfurled, wooden crates are stacked, and scales are meticulously balanced. The air begins to subtly shift, taking on new dimensions as the produce is revealed. There is a quiet pride in the arrangement of goods, a silent promise of freshness and quality. Now, let us bring our focus closer to the sensory details that begin to awaken the market. Imagine a still life of freshly laid out produce on a stall, the vibrant, almost shocking green of a dozen cabbages, their outer leaves still touched with the night's dew, the earthy, mottled browns of potatoes, some still clinging to remnants of soil, the rosy, unblemished blush of apples, their surfaces glistening faintly. Soft, diffused light, now stronger, catches their natural textures, making each vegetable and fruit a small work of art. The air here is no longer merely damp and cold. It now carries the faint, earthy scent of fresh vegetables, mingled with the distinct aroma of damp wood from the stalls themselves. This is the pure, unadulterated smell of nature brought into the heart of the city, a refreshing antidote to the lingering coal smoke. And then, perhaps, we turn to a stall dedicated to the staff of life, bread. A close-up shows the golden brown crusts of freshly baked loaves, carefully arranged on a clean wooden surface. A subtle animation might reveal a faint wisp of steam gently rising from a still warm loaf, a silent invitation. The visual implies, almost overtly, the pervasive, comforting, and deeply inviting warm, yeasty aroma of baking bread. This rich scent, heavy and comforting, gently wafts through the cool morning air, mingling with the earthy notes of the produce, creating an irresistible and deeply nostalgic presence. This is the scent of sustenance, of comfort, of home, spreading through the awakening square. As the morning progresses, the market begins to receive its first, quiet trickle of customers. These are not the bustling crowds of midday, but rather the diligent, early birds. Imagine a quiet interaction, an early customer, perhaps a cook for a grander house, with a basket already on her arm, or a meticulous housewife, carefully examining a display of greens. Their hand might gently, discerningly touch a fruit, feeling its ripeness, its firmness. The vendor watches patiently, offering no hurried sales pitch, only a quiet presence, allowing the customer their careful selection. The only sound here might be the almost imperceptible soft, clinking sound of a coin being exchanged for goods, a gentle metallic whisper that signifies the beginning of commerce. The interaction is one of quiet trust and shared understanding. Other vendors, in moments of lull, might be seen engaged in equally quiet, purposeful tasks. A small, almost intimate scene shows a vendor, perhaps an elderly woman, wiping down her stall surface with a clean cloth, her movements slow and deliberate, instilled with a quiet pride in her offerings. Or perhaps a butcher, in his designated section, rhythmically sharpening a knife with a soft, continuous scrape against a whetstone, the sound a low, almost hypnotic hiss that speaks of preparation and precision, not aggression. These are the small, everyday rituals that underscored the market's gentle stir, moments of quiet industry that prepared the ground for the day's fuller activities. As the sun climbs higher, casting longer, softer shadows, the market square approaches a state of gentle, burgeoning activity. More stalls are now fully open, their awnings unfurled like colorful flags. More figures move through the aisles, not yet a throng, but a steady, harmonious flow. The voices are still muted, a low murmur of conversation, punctuated by the occasional, soft call of a vendor announcing their freshest wares. The overall impression is one of gentle, blossoming life, a place of quiet commerce and profound human connection. The air is now richly fragrant with the mingling scents of fresh produce, warm bread, damp earth, and distant coal smoke, a complex and comforting perfume of a city truly awakening. The market, in its quiet dignity, serves not just as a place of transaction, but as a central, living heart of the Victorian community, a peaceful realm where the mundane necessities of life take on a quiet, rhythmic beauty. As this wide, serene illustration slowly fades to black, it leaves us with the lingering scent and the gentle, persistent sounds of the market's timeless stir, an invitation to a deeper, more peaceful rest. Chapter 4. The Pulse of Industry, Workshops and Humble Labor. As the morning progresses and the city's gentle hum continues to rise, our quiet exploration now leads us into the very arteries of its industrious heart. We step away from the open thoroughfares and into the quieter, narrower side streets, where the pulse of Victorian life beat with a different, more contained rhythm, the rhythm of workshops and humble labor. This was a world of quiet diligence, of skilled hands performing repetitive tasks, transforming raw materials into the countless objects that furnished and sustained daily life. Imagine, if you will, a narrow Victorian side street, its buildings sturdy and unadorned, their facades often grimy with the accumulation of coal dust. Large, often ground-floor windows, sometimes obscured by a fine layer of dust, hinted at the hive of activity within. The light here is often diffused, filtered by the tall buildings or the lingering morning haze, illuminating the damp cobblestones in a soft, muted glow. A very subtle, almost imperceptible wisp of steam or faint smoke might be seen rising from a grimy vent, a fleeting exhalation from a hidden furnace or an early boiler, providing the only immediate sign of the contained industriousness within. This general impression is one of quiet, organized activity, a pervasive sense of purpose hidden behind closed doors. Let our gaze slowly, contemplatively, pan across the interiors of these small, intimate workshops, each a microcosm of dedicated craftsmanship. We might first step, in our mind's eye, into a cobbler's shop. The light filtering through the dusty window creates a tableau of quiet industry. A lone figure sits hunched over a last, a worn leather apron covering their knees. Their hands, calloused and skilled, move with a quiet, practiced dexterity, shaping, stitching, and hammering. The soft, rhythmic tap-tap-tap of a small hammer on leather, joining sole to upper, echoes gently in the stillness. Tools are neatly arranged on a workbench, each worn to a subtle sheen from years of use. Various hammers, awls, needles, and spools of waxed thread. The air in this space carries the distinctive, earthy, and comforting faint scent of leather, mingled with the subtle, sharp aroma of polish and glue. It is a smell of honest craft, of durability and repair. Next door, perhaps, lies the refined quietude of a tailor's workshop. Here, the natural light falls abundantly upon a large, meticulously clean cutting table. A figure, perhaps an older gentleman with spectacles perched on his nose, slowly, meticulously measures a length of fine wool or sturdy linen. The only sound is the crisp, precise snip-snip of large shears cutting through fabric, a sound of perfect alignment and exactitude. The room is filled with rolls of cloth in various muted colors, hanging threads, and the subtle scent of wool and linen, a clean, almost comforting aroma. Pins are neatly arrayed in pincushions, thimbles gleam, and patterns lie unfurled like ancient maps. Each stitch here is an act of precision, each garment a testament to careful artistry, all performed with a quiet, patient grace. Our focus then narrows to the repetitive, rhythmic actions that define so much of this humble labor. Imagine a close-up on a pair of hands, gently worn by years of toil, engaged in a precise, continuous motion. Perhaps they are meticulously polishing a piece of dark wood, transforming a rough surface into a subtle sheen. The sound of the cloth, perhaps a soft piece of felt or leather, makes a soft, continuous whisper against the wood, a soothing friction that speaks of dedication and transformation. Or perhaps the hands are those of a watchmaker, delicately turning a small crank with a gentle, rhythmic squeak, part of the intricate, almost microscopic work of assembling tiny gears and springs. These are not grand, dramatic actions, but the quiet, almost meditative movements of skilled manual labor, where repetition leads to perfection, and each subtle sound underscores the profound concentration. In another corner, a subtle animation might reveal the ancient craft of weaving. The weaver's shuttle moves back and forth, a mesmerizing dance of thread and loom, slowly creating a fabric pattern, accompanied by a soft, rhythmic clack-clack-clack. The visual highlights the slow, organic growth of the product, the transformation from individual threads to a cohesive, textured cloth, a testament to the patient accumulation of simple actions. Each thread woven is a step forward, a tangible progression in the quiet creation of something useful and beautiful. Beyond these smaller, more intimate workshops, the city's industrious pulse extended to larger, though still localized, spaces that vibrated with a deeper hum of production. Step, in your mind's eye, into the warmth of a bakery interior, where the air shimmers with the heat emanating from a large, brick oven, its maw glowing with embers. Figures, their faces often dusted with flour, are seen engaged in rhythmic, purposeful actions, kneading vast mounds of dough with strong, practiced movements, their hands covered in the soft, yielding mass, or carefully, expertly sliding rows of loaves into the cavernous depths of the oven with long wooden peels. The pervasive, comforting aroma of fresh bread, a deeper, richer, and more pervasive scent than that found in the market, fills every corner of the space, a testament to the transformative power of heat and simple ingredients. The sounds are soft, the sigh of dough, the gentle scrape of a peel, the low crackle of the fire. And then, the interior of a printer's workshop, a space of robust efficiency. Here, the subtle gleam of metal type catches the light, arranged neatly in wooden cases. A figure, perhaps an apprentice, might be seen carefully setting individual metal letters into a composing stick, their fingers moving with quiet precision, arranging words backward, ready for printing. Or a master printer might be slowly operating a large, hand-cranked press, its heavy platen descending with a soft, rhythmic thud-thud-thud, transferring ink from type to paper. The air here carries the subtle, distinct scent of ink and paper, a dry, metallic, and slightly earthy aroma that speaks of knowledge being multiplied and disseminated. These were the quiet factories of the Victorian age, transforming raw materials into the very fabric of daily life, all with a regulated, purposeful rhythm. As mid-morning fully asserts itself, the city's skyline, now fully visible, reveals the widespread nature of this quiet industry. Numerous chimneys, large and small, are seen gently releasing their plumes of smoke into the sky, a visible testament to the thousands of hearths and furnaces and workshops diligently at work. The overall impression is one of gentle industry, a quiet, organized productivity unfolding beneath the soft, diffused light, signifying the city's diligent and unyielding heart. Perhaps, very faintly, so subtly as to be almost unheard, the distant, muted sound of factory whistles might drift on the air, signaling shifts or breaks, a quiet pulse that resonates through the urban landscape. This profound, yet often overlooked, hum of humble labor was the true engine of the Victorian city, a constant, comforting rhythm that shaped the lives of countless ordinary people. As the image slowly fades to black, it leaves the lingering echo of purposeful work, inviting a peaceful descent into deep and quiet rest. Chapter 5: Midday Respite, Simple Meals and Quiet Conversations. As the morning's quiet industry reaches its gentle peak, the Victorian city takes a collective, momentary breath. This is the hour of midday respite, a universal pause in the rhythm of daily life, when the demands of labor yield, however briefly, to the simple, sustaining acts of eating and quiet contemplation. For ordinary people, this wasn't a grand feast or a raucous break, but a precious interlude for simple meals and quiet conversations, a necessary calm before the afternoon's work resumed its course. Imagine, first, a haven of fleeting tranquility, a quiet, uncrowded Victorian park bench, or a secluded garden path, bathed in the soft, diffused warmth of midday light. Sunlight filters gently through the leaves of mature trees, dappling the ground below with shifting patterns of light and shadow, creating an intimate, natural sanctuary. A single, stylized figure, perhaps an elderly woman resting from her errands, or a weary worker enjoying a stolen moment of peace, sits quietly, their posture relaxed. They might be reading from a small, worn book, its pages whispering silent stories, or simply gazing into the middle distance, lost in thought, allowing their mind to wander freely. The atmosphere is one of profound stillness, a momentary escape from the city's persistent hum. The gentle, almost imperceptible rustle of leaves in the soft breeze, or the faint, distant chirping of birds, provides a natural, soothing soundtrack, a soft counterpoint to the city's unseen pulse. For many, especially those engaged in manual labor or working long hours, the midday meal was a humble, yet utterly vital, affair. Our gaze might now turn to a close-up on a pair of workers' hands, rough and calloused, testament to their daily toil. These hands move with a careful, almost ritualistic precision, as they unwrap a simple piece of bread and cheese from a neatly folded cloth, arranging it on a clean, makeshift surface, perhaps a smooth, worn wooden crate, or a cool stone step in a quiet alley. The visual emphasizes the practical, sustaining nature of the meal, valuing nourishment over extravagance. The soft, rhythmic rustling of the fabric as the cloth is unfolded, or the gentle, satisfying tearing of the crusty bread, provides a subtle auditory layer to this intimate moment of sustenance. There is a quiet dignity in this simple act, a profound connection to the daily necessity of food. A short while later, the same hands might be seen raising a simple tin tea mug or a well-worn bottle to lips. A subtle animation shows a wisp of steam gently rising from the opening, indicating the warmth of the liquid within, a comforting tea, or perhaps simply warm water. The figure takes a slow, fortifying sip, their eyes perhaps closed for a brief moment of pure sensory pleasure. The visual highlights the immediate warmth and simple comfort provided by a hot drink, a small luxury that helped to recharge body and spirit for the afternoon ahead. This unhurried act of consuming a simple meal, often eaten alone or with a trusted companion, provided a precious opportunity for rest and quiet rejuvenation. Beyond individual moments of respite, certain spaces within the city provided quiet communal gathering points for midday meals. Imagine the interior of a humble coffee shop or a penny gaff dining hall, a place where plain, inexpensive meals could be purchased for a few pence. The room is softly lit, often by natural light filtering through frosted windows, creating an inviting, if unadorned, atmosphere. A few individuals or small groups are seated at sturdy, plain wooden tables, quietly consuming bowls of soup, thick slices of bread, or small portions of cooked meat. The atmosphere is subdued, a collective murmur of low, earnest conversation, punctuated by the gentle, almost musical clinking of crockery and cutlery. There is no boisterousness here, no loud laughter, only the quiet industry of sustenance and the subdued hum of human connection. These were places of refuge, offering warmth and a brief escape from the elements. Contrast this with a more intimate, domestic setting, a domestic kitchen or scullery during lunchtime. This interior scene would feel warm and inviting, perhaps softly lit by the glowing embers of a cooking range. A mother or a housekeeper is seen quietly preparing a simple meal for her family, perhaps stirring a pot of simmering stew or soup on the stove, its contents bubbling gently. The warmth of the room is palpable, infused with the comforting aromas of cooking food. Children might be quietly seated nearby, perhaps doing chores or engaged in quiet play, patiently waiting for their meal. The soft sizzle of food in a pan or the gentle clatter of cooking utensils would be the ambient sounds, creating a homely, rhythmic backdrop to this central act of family life. This midday respite also offered precious opportunities for quiet conversation or solitary reflection. Imagine two figures, perhaps close friends or longtime colleagues, seated together during their break. Their voices are low, just above a whisper, as they engage in an earnest conversation, sharing thoughts on their day, or perhaps discussing the modest details of their lives. Their expressions are calm, perhaps conveying shared understanding, a quiet camaraderie that offered emotional support amidst the daily grind. These were moments of genuine connection, a brief lifting of the veil of individual isolation. Or consider a solitary individual, perhaps a weary shopkeeper, who has found a brief moment to sit for quiet repose. They might be gazing out of a window, their eyes unseeing, lost in thought, allowing their mind to drift and process the myriad details of their morning. This visual emphasizes introspection, a vital mental respite that allowed individuals to recharge and gather their inner strength before returning to the demands of the afternoon. These were the unnoticed moments of human resilience, the quiet acts of self-care that sustained life in a bustling city. As the quiet pause of midday gently begins to recede, the city slowly gears up for the afternoon's activity. Our concluding wide illustration of the city at midday is bathed in a gentle, warm light, illuminating the still-present mist as it begins to thin. While the overall hustle of the city has undoubtedly increased since dawn, individual moments of quiet stillness are still subtly visible, a lone figure paused in a shop doorway, a quiet corner of a street where shadows lengthen. The overall impression is one of a vast, purposeful city, alive with its daily rhythm, yet punctuated by countless small, quiet moments of respite. The subtle sound of distant, muted street cries, perhaps a vendor in the distance, or the gentle, melodic chimes of a distant clock tower, might fade in, then serenely out, before the image slowly dissolves to a deep, peaceful black. This leaves us with the lingering sensation of a city that, even in its industriousness, understood the profound value of a quiet moment, inviting you to embrace a truly restorative and untroubled slumber. Chapter 6. The afternoon's gentle pace, shops, strolls, and quiet leisure. As the midday warmth settles and the sun begins its gentle descent, the Victorian city shifts into a softer, more measured rhythm. This is the afternoon's gentle pace, a time often dedicated to quiet commerce, leisurely strolls, and the subtle enjoyment of personal leisure. The urgency of the morning commute has subsided, and the focused intensity of the workshops has settled into a steady hum. Now, the city breathes a little more easily, inviting its inhabitants to engage with its offerings at a more contemplative tempo. Imagine, if you will, a main Victorian shopping street in the early afternoon. The light is clear, a gentle, diffused sunlight that casts soft, elongated shadows of buildings and figures upon the smooth cobblestones. The street is certainly alive, a steady flow of well-dressed figures moving with a relaxed purpose, some carrying neat parcels wrapped in brown paper, others simply enjoying the fresh air and the sight of window displays. Horse-drawn cabs and omnibuses, no longer rushing as they did at dawn, now move with a slow, deliberate grace, their wheels making a softer, more continuous rumble. The shop fronts, with their polished wooden frames and large glass windows, reflect the gentle light, hinting at the treasures within without being overtly garish. The atmosphere is one of genteel activity, a pleasant, underlying hum of life that is neither overwhelming nor rushed. The faint, distant sound of muffled traffic and soft, intermittent chatter provides a comforting, ambient backdrop, like the murmur of a gentle stream. Our gaze might then drift inwards, to the hushed interiors of various shops, each offering its own unique solace and allure. Consider the quiet dignity of a draper's shop. Here, rolls of fabric, wools, silks, linens, and velvets in muted yet rich colors, are neatly stacked on dark wooden shelves, their textures inviting to the touch. The interior is bathed in a soft, diffused light, perhaps filtering through a skylight or a large street-facing window, illuminating the subtle sheen of the cloth. A shop assistant, perhaps a young woman in a neat, plain dress, moves with quiet grace behind the counter. Her movements are precise and unhurried as she carefully folds a length of fabric, her hands smoothing out every wrinkle, demonstrating a quiet mastery of her craft. The air in this space is still and clean, carrying the subtle scent of new fabric, perhaps mixed with the faint, comforting aroma of dust from the aged wood. The occasional, gentle rustle of cloth as it's unfurled or refolded is the only sound, a quiet testament to the tactile beauty of textiles. Further along, we might glimpse into the small, unassuming interior of a greengrocer's shop. Here, baskets woven from natural fibers overflow with the day's fresh bounty, vibrant green cabbages, earthy potatoes, rosy apples, and fragrant herbs, all arranged with an eye for freshness and natural beauty. A customer is seen quietly selecting items, their hand gently testing the ripeness of a pear or the firmness of a tomato. A quiet word, a subtle nod, might be exchanged with the proprietor, whose presence is one of patient knowledge and unassuming pride in their produce. The visual emphasizes the fresh, earthy colors of the vegetables and fruits, catching the light in myriad ways, creating a sense of quiet abundance and a direct connection to the land. Now, let us focus on the delicate details of interaction and display that define the afternoon's commerce. Imagine a detailed close-up of a shop window display. Perhaps it showcases a carefully arranged collection of delicate porcelain figures, their painted faces serene and untouched, or perhaps neatly stacked tins of exotic tea, their labels promising distant flavors. The large pane of glass, meticulously cleaned, reflects the faint, moving shapes of passers-by, a blurred, ethereal world outside the confines of the shop, creating a subtle interplay between the interior and exterior. The visual emphasizes the meticulous presentation, the quiet artistry of drawing the eye, and the subtle invitation extended to the curious passerby. At a polished wooden counter, a quiet interaction unfolds between a customer and a shopkeeper. The exchange is calm, unhurried, perhaps punctuated by a moment of shared pleasantry about the weather or the quality of the goods. The shopkeeper, with a practiced hand, wraps a purchase in sturdy paper, securing it with twine. The soft, gentle clink of coins as payment is made and change is given is heard, a subtle metallic whisper that underscores the quiet act of commerce. This visual focuses on polite, unhurried transactions, a testament to the respectful pace of Victorian retail, where personal interaction was still a fundamental part of the exchange. Beyond the shops, the afternoon also offered opportunities for quiet leisure, moments of respite from the demands of work and domesticity. Picture a serene scene in a public garden or a smaller, meticulously manicured park. Gentle sunlight filters through the mature trees, creating dappled patterns on the neatly trimmed lawns and winding gravel paths. A few individuals sit on benches, their postures relaxed. One might be absorbed in the rustle of a newspaper, its broad sheets held steady against the gentle breeze. Another might simply be observing the quiet beauty of the carefully cultivated flower beds, their vibrant colors a testament to the gardener's unseen labor. A gentle, distant hum of city life is still audible, a pervasive, underlying drone, but it is softened and diffused by the rustling leaves and the open space, creating a profound moment of peaceful contemplation. As the afternoon light begins to warm towards evening, a quieter, more intimate form of leisure might unfold in certain establishments. Imagine the subdued interior of a gentleman's club or a respectable public house in the late afternoon. The light is dim, soft, often from a roaring fireplace that casts a comforting glow upon well-worn leather armchairs and polished wooden tables. A few figures sit in quiet repose, perhaps reading newspapers, their pages rustling softly, or conversing in low, measured tones, their voices barely rising above a murmur. Others might be slowly enjoying a quiet pint of ale or a glass of port, savoring the moment of respite. The soft murmur of voices, the occasional clink of a glass against a table, and the gentle crackle of the fire provide a comforting, unobtrusive atmosphere, a sanctuary for quiet reflection and subdued camaraderie before the return home. As the chapter draws to a close, envision a wide, concluding illustration of the city in the late afternoon. The light is indeed softening, growing warmer, casting longer, gentler shadows that stretch across the cobblestones and up the sides of buildings. The street activity is still present, but it carries a more relaxed, less urgent quality than the morning's rush. There is a sense of a city gradually winding down its more intense activities, shifting towards the quiet anticipation of evening and the comfort of home. The subtle, rhythmic clip-clop of distant hooves on the cobblestones might fade slowly, a final, calming echo of the afternoon's gentle pace, guiding you to a deep, peaceful black. Chapter 7, Echoes of Education, Schoolrooms and Self-Improvement. As the afternoon sun mellows and the city's gentle hum continues, our quiet exploration now leads us to a vital, often understated, aspect of Victorian life, the echoes of education. Beyond the daily grind of work and the rhythms of domesticity, there was a pervasive, quiet hunger for knowledge, a commitment to learning that shaped individuals and, in turn, the very fabric of society. This was a world where education, in its myriad forms, from the structured schoolroom to the solitary act of self-improvement, laid the quiet groundwork for progress. Imagine, first, a quiet Victorian schoolyard in the mid-afternoon, or the plain, sturdy exterior of a modest schoolhouse. The light is soft, warm, diffused, hinting at the lingering warmth of the day but without harsh glare. No children are actively playing. Instead, perhaps a lingering shadow or a forgotten hoop or ball hints at recent, lively activity, a memory of youthful energy. The tall, rectangular windows of the schoolhouse are slightly ajar, allowing fresh air to circulate, suggesting that lessons are either drawing to a close or that the room has settled into a period of quiet study. The air is still, perhaps carrying the faint, distant murmur of a recitation, a collective drone of young voices learning by rote, or the soft, melodic chime of a school bell, signaling a break or the end of a lesson. This initial visual sets the contemplative scene for the quiet world of learning. Our gaze then drifts slowly, contemplatively, across the interior of a typical Victorian schoolroom. Rows of simple, sturdy wooden desks and benches stretch into the distance, mostly empty now, awaiting the next influx of eager or perhaps reluctant minds. Sunlight streams through a tall, slightly dusty window, illuminating countless chalk dust motes dancing in the air, caught in the golden shafts of light, a visual testament to the lessons imparted. A large, dark blackboard dominates one wall, displaying neat, elegant cursive writing, perhaps a lesson in grammar, a mathematical equation, or a moral dictum. The room is quiet, expectant, imbued with the lingering scent of aged wood, dry chalk, and the metallic tang of ink from well-used inkwells. It is a space of order, discipline, and quiet intellectual promise. A close-up reveals the tangible tools of this humble learning. On a worn wooden desk lie a few well-used schoolbooks, a simple primer, its pages dog-eared from countless turnings, an arithmetic book filled with neat columns of numbers, a reader, its stories perhaps already well known. Their pages are slightly yellowed with age, their corners softened from diligent handling. Beside them, a small, dark slate and a piece of white chalk might rest, silent companions awaiting their next task. These simple objects, seemingly mundane, represent the very gateway to literacy and knowledge for generations of Victorian children, each mark upon them a testament to quiet effort. Now, let us bring our focus to the quiet moments of learning itself. Imagine a child's hand, perhaps small and still somewhat clumsy, yet utterly determined, slowly, meticulously forming letters on a slate or within a copybook with a piece of chalk or a nibbed pen. The precise, rhythmic sound of soft chalk scraping against slate, or the gentle quill scratching against paper, would fill the immediate space, a focused sound of nascent literacy. The visual emphasizes the profound concentration required for this fundamental act of learning, the quiet perseverance of a young mind grappling with the written word, laying the groundwork for future understanding. In another part of the room, or perhaps in a slightly older classroom, a small group of children, perhaps late teens or early adolescents, are engaged in a quiet, focused reading session. They sit upright, attentive, their eyes tracking lines of text in unison. A gentle murmur of soft, collective reading aloud fills the space, a rhythmic drone of words spoken carefully, each syllable pronounced with a concerted effort. The atmosphere is one of shared, quiet intellectual effort, a communal act of absorbing knowledge from the printed page, building a foundation of shared understanding that would serve them in their future lives. Beyond the formal schoolrooms, the Victorian era saw a flourishing of avenues for self-improvement, a quiet hunger for knowledge that extended into adulthood, particularly among the working and middle classes. Imagine the interior of a working men's club or a mechanics institute library in the early evening. The lighting is warm and inviting, emanating from softly hissing gas lamps that cast a comforting glow upon large, sturdy wooden tables. A few adult figures are seated, their faces illuminated by the lamplight, quietly absorbed in books or pamphlets on a vast array of subjects: engineering, philosophy, history, literature, or current affairs. The atmosphere is one of focused, self-directed learning, a quiet thirst for knowledge that propelled many to improve their circumstances and broaden their minds. The rustle of turning pages and the occasional, soft clearing of a throat are the only sounds, a testament to the profound quiet of intellectual pursuit. In a more intimate setting, imagine a quiet domestic scene, a young woman reading by lamplight in a modest parlor. The soft glow of the gas lamp or oil lamp illuminates her face and the open pages of a novel, a book of poetry, or perhaps a practical guide to household management. The setting is intimate, emphasizing personal intellectual growth and the quiet joy of reading purely for pleasure or enlightenment. The faint, delicate rustle of pages as they are turned is heard, a sound that underscores the personal nature of this quiet pursuit. It is a moment of personal solace, a quiet escape into the worlds created by authors, or a diligent effort to acquire new skills, all within the comforting confines of one's own home. As this chapter draws to a close, envision a wide, concluding illustration of the city's myriad windows at dusk. Here and there, some windows glow with the soft, steady light of studies, classrooms, or private reading nooks. This visual creates an overall impression of a city where the pursuit of knowledge, in its various forms, formal instruction, self-study, communal learning, was a quiet, constant undercurrent, shaping minds and futures, illuminating the encroaching night with the soft, steady glow of understanding. The subtle sound of distant, muffled footsteps on the cobblestones fades slowly, a final, calming echo of the day's intellectual endeavors, guiding you to a deep, peaceful black. Chapter 8. The Evening's Embrace, Lamplight, Hearth, and Home. As the vibrant hues of the day slowly recede, giving way to the deep, bruised purples and soft oranges of dusk, the Victorian city begins its final, gentle transition. This is the evening's embrace, a precious period when the outside world recedes, and the warmth and comfort of lamplight, hearth, and home draw in the weary. It is a time for quiet introspection, for shared moments, and for the simple, profound rituals that mark the close of another day beneath the cobblestones. Imagine, first, a Victorian street at dusk. The sky overhead is a magnificent gradient of deep, bruised purple, softly blending into a lingering orange-pink near the horizon, where the last vestiges of daylight cling. Below, the gas lamps, those steadfast sentinels of the urban night, are now fully lit, casting warm, inviting amber pools of light onto the wet cobblestones and the polished glass of shop windows. Figures on the street are fewer now, moving more slowly, their forms softened and blurred by the encroaching shadows. In the terraced houses that line the street, windows begin to glow, one by one, with the soft, internal light of oil lamps or gas fixtures, signaling the return of warmth and domesticity. The atmosphere is one of quiet transition, a gentle winding down, a collective sigh of relief. The faint, rhythmic clang of a distant church bell or the soft, occasional whinny of a horse from a nearby mews provides the gentle, ambient sounds of a city settling down. Our gaze then drifts inwards, across the thresholds of these glowing homes, to scenes of profound domestic comfort. Picture the interior of a modest Victorian parlor or sitting room. A gas lamp, perhaps suspended from the ceiling or placed on a small side table, casts a warm, inviting glow, banishing the deepening shadows from the corners of the room. In the fireplace, a small, crackling coal fire provides not only warmth but also a mesmerizing, flickering light that dances upon the walls and ceiling, animating the space with gentle movement. A family member, perhaps a parent or an older child, is seated in a comfortable armchair, their posture relaxed, their face bathed in the soft glow. They might be quietly engaged in an evening craft, their hands rhythmically working knitting needles, or absorbed in the pages of a beloved book, or simply enjoying the quiet warmth and the presence of loved ones, lost in their own thoughts. The air in this space is still and comforting, carrying the subtle scent of coal smoke from the fire, mingled with the familiar aroma of dust and the pervasive warmth of a well-lived home. The gentle crackle of the fire and a soft, occasional sigh from a tired occupant are the ambient sounds, forming a lullaby of domestic peace. A close-up reveals the intimate details of these quiet evening moments. Imagine a steaming teacup and saucer placed delicately on a small, polished wooden table, its warmth subtly rising, perhaps beside an open book. Or observe a hand, perhaps slightly calloused from the day's work, gently turning the page of a worn book, its cover softened by countless readings, under the steady glow of a lamplight. These simple visuals emphasize the intimate, quiet moments of domesticity, the small, treasured rituals that brought comfort and solace at the close of the day. Evenings also brought a shift in the nature of daily tasks, transforming necessary chores into quiet, contemplative activities. Picture hands engaged in a repetitive, rhythmic evening chore by lamplight. Perhaps it is the diligent act of mending clothes, a needle flashing softly in the lamplight as it weaves through fabric, the movements precise and methodical, accompanied by the delicate, rhythmic sound of the needle pulling thread. Or perhaps it is the careful act of polishing a piece of silver, a soft cloth moving in gentle, circular motions, restoring the metal to a subtle gleam. These visuals emphasize diligent, quiet domesticity, the small, unassuming tasks that kept the household running smoothly, performed with a sense of calm purpose as the day wound down. For families, the evening often concluded with a peaceful preparation for sleep. Consider a scene of children quietly preparing for bed in a dimly lit nursery or bedroom. The main light source might be a single, flickering candle or a small oil lamp, casting soft, elongated shadows. A parent might be seen softly tucking a child into a simple, comfortable bed, their movements gentle and reassuring. Perhaps a very short, whispered story is shared, its words barely audible, a final, comforting ritual before the child drifts into slumber. The visual emphasizes the peaceful conclusion of a child's day, a calm transition into the world of dreams, cocooned in the warmth of home. As the city fully embraces the night, its sounds soften, becoming more diffused and resonant. Imagine a wide view looking down a quiet, residential street from a slightly elevated vantage point. Windows glow with a myriad of warm lights, some with curtains now fully drawn, offering tantalizing glimpses of the private worlds within. Other windows might show silhouetted figures moving gently, unhurriedly, within their homes. The sounds from outside are now profoundly hushed, distant footsteps, their echoes softened by the night air, a faint carriage passing, its wheels a muffled rumble, the occasional, very soft street cry or the distant, melodic chime of a church bell, now muted by distance and the quietude of the hour. These subtle sounds are like a gentle lullaby for the sleeping city. A final, tranquil image might focus on a solitary gas lamp, standing watch on a quiet street corner. Its flame flickers softly in the cool night air, casting intricate, dancing shadows of nearby wrought iron railings or bare tree branches upon the cobblestones. The faint, steady hissing sound of the gas lamp becomes a rhythmic, comforting presence, a silent guardian of the nocturnal peace. As this chapter and our journey through the Victorian day gently concludes, envision a wide, encompassing illustration of the city fully embraced by night. Thousands of individual window lights glow across the cityscape, creating a silent, vast tapestry of domestic warmth, each light a tiny beacon of life and comfort. The sky above is a deep, velvety dark, perhaps with a few stars beginning to pierce through the city's softened glow, a reminder of the vastness beyond. The overall impression is one of profound peace and rest, a monumental city slumbering, filled with countless unseen lives, each drawing comfort and solace from the simple, timeless rituals of home. The very subtle hum of the sleeping city, a deep, quiet resonance beneath the cobblestones, slowly fades, leading to a deep, pervasive black, inviting you to share in its profound quiet and drift into a truly restorative slumber. Chapter 9, The Sounds of the City, a Shifting Symphony. As our tranquil journey through the Victorian city deepens, we now turn our attention to an often overlooked yet profoundly immersive aspect of daily life, the shifting symphony of its sounds. For the ordinary Victorian, the city was not merely a collection of sights and smells, but a complex, ever-present tapestry of auditory experiences, a continuous stream of echoes, calls, and rhythms that shaped their very consciousness. These were the subtle oral details that formed the backdrop of their existence, a gentle, shifting hum that accompanied them from dawn to dusk. Imagine, if you will, a bustling but not chaotic Victorian street at mid-morning. The light is bright yet diffused, illuminating every detail without harshness. Figures move with a purposeful yet unhurried elegance, their forms distinct but part of a larger, harmonious flow. Horse-drawn traffic is present, a steady, measured procession, but not overwhelming. The visual here is vibrant yet contained, designed to imply sound rather than depict it explicitly, allowing your mind to conjure the auditory landscape. It's a living, breathing organism, constantly communicating through its myriad sounds. The air carries the combined sense of coal smoke, damp earth, and distant cooking, providing a complex olfactory layer to this auditory world. The most distinctive voices of the Victorian street were often those of the vendors, their cries weaving through the urban fabric like melodic threads. Our gaze might drift slowly, contemplatively, across various vignettes of these street merchants. Picture a costermonger's cart, laden with vibrant, freshly picked produce, piles of rosy apples, earthy potatoes, and bright green cabbages. The cart moves slowly, its wooden wheels making a soft, rhythmic rumble on the uneven cobblestones. The vendor, perhaps a man with a weathered but kind face, opens his mouth in a gentle, stylized way, implying a long, drawn-out, almost mournful cry of fresh apples. Ripe pears. All new, all fresh. These were not sharp, jarring shouts, but often melodic, almost musical calls, designed to carry, to entice, and to become a familiar part of the daily soundscape. Each vendor had their unique call, a sonic signature that announced their presence long before they were seen, becoming a comforting presence in the urban hum. Nearby, a different, more delicate sound might emerge from the passage of a milkman's cart. Here, the rhythmic jingle of clinking glass bottles provides a softer, more precise accompaniment to the horse's measured pace. The milkman is seen quietly pouring fresh milk from a large churn into a customer's waiting jug at a doorway, their interaction brief and efficient. The focus here is on the subtle, almost musical clink of glass bottles as they are handled, and the gentle, muffled slush of milk as it fills the jug. These were the sounds of daily delivery, of essential goods brought directly to the home, a gentle reminder of the city's intricate network of provision. Beyond the human voices, the very locomotion of the city contributed its own distinct rhythms. Imagine a close-up on the hooves of a horse as it moves rhythmically on the damp cobblestones. Each powerful yet controlled step creates a soft, resonant clip-clop-clop sound, often accompanied by the subtle splash of water from a recent shower. The visual emphasizes the texture of the worn stones, glistening faintly in the light, and the immense power yet gentle grace of these animals, so central to Victorian transport. This rhythmic sound was a constant presence, the heartbeat of the horse-drawn city. For heavier loads, the deeper, more sonorous sounds of large wooden cartwheels slowly turning came into play. The massive wheels, their spokes visible and sturdy, would revolve with an immense, unhurried power. The accompanying sound would be the deep, resonant creak and groan of the cart's wooden axle, a sound of immense weight and effort, a slow, continuous protest from the straining timbers as they transported goods across the uneven surfaces. This was the sound of industry and commerce in its most fundamental form, a slow, powerful rumble that resonated through the very foundations of the streets. Amidst the sounds of commerce and transport, there were the softer, more human melodies that lent the city its character and warmth. Picture a group of children playing quietly in a side street or a small, cobbled square. Their laughter is soft, distant, almost musical, carrying on the air like a fleeting melody. Perhaps a ball bounces gently on the uneven ground, creating a soft, rhythmic thud. The visual focuses on their joyful but contained energy, their movements fluid and unburdened. These were the sounds of innocence and spontaneity, a gentle counterpoint to the more serious rhythms of adult life, reminding everyone of the simple pleasures that could still be found even amidst the urban sprawl. Our gaze might then turn to a scene glimpsed through a shop window, where the more intimate sounds of human interaction unfolded. A shopkeeper politely conversing with a customer across a polished wooden counter. Their voices are a low, indistinct murmur, a gentle hum of polite commerce and courteous exchange. The visual focuses on their calm, engaged expressions, the subtle nod of understanding, the quiet dignity of their interaction. This continuous, low-level murmur of polite chatter was a constant, comforting presence in the retail spaces, a testament to the thousands of small, respectful interactions that formed the daily fabric of the city's social life. As the day began its gentle retreat and twilight descended, the symphony of the city began its gradual winding down. Our wide, concluding illustration shows the city at this peaceful hour. The light is dimming, casting longer, softer shadows, and windows are beginning to glow with the warm invitation of interior lamplight. The earlier vibrancy of mid-morning is now muted, the sounds less sharp, more diffused. The overall impression is one of an immense symphony of sound gradually fading, dissolving into the quiet hum of a city preparing for slumber. Only the softest, most comforting resonances remain, the subtle distant clang of a closing shop shutter, echoing down an emptying street, or the soft, final rumble of a faint carriage passing in the distance, its sounds muffled by the deepening night. These gentle sounds, like the final notes of a long, beautiful composition, fade slowly, leading us to a deep, peaceful black, leaving only the profound quietude of a city settling into a well-deserved rest. Chapter 10. Sunday's Quiet Contemplation, Rest, Reflection, and Community. As the vibrant tapestry of the Victorian week unfolds and then gently folds back upon itself, we arrive at a day of unique and profound character, Sunday. This was a day set apart, a quiet interlude amidst the city's relentless industry, dedicated to rest, reflection, and the quiet strengthening of community. The very air seemed to hold a different quality on a Sunday, imbued with a palpable stillness, a sense of peace that descended upon the Cobblestones. Imagine, first, a Victorian street on a quiet Sunday morning. The light is soft, diffused, often filtered through a gentle mist that still hangs in the air, but the air itself feels remarkably clear and still, almost breathable in a new way. The streets, which on any other day would be bustling with traffic and the clamor of work, are largely empty. No carts clatter, no vendors cry their wares. Only the occasional solitary figure might be seen, moving with an unhurried grace. Church spires, usually lost amidst the general hubbub, now stand out sharply against a pale, washed-out sky, seeming to gather the very silence around them. The impression is one of profound peace, an almost sacred stillness that offers a stark, beautiful contrast to the relentless pace of the weekday. The most defining sound of this quiet morning is the distant, soft, melodic tolling of a church bell, a deep, resonant sound that carries far across the hushed city, regular and comforting, calling the faithful to worship. Our gaze then follows the subtle movements of Sunday morning rituals. Picture figures, stylized and graceful, moving with quiet dignity towards a church. These are individuals or small family groups, dressed in their modest but carefully preserved Sunday best attire, their faces serene with a shared purpose. Their footsteps are soft, muffled by the dampness or the quietude of the day, making barely a sound upon the cobblestones. The visual emphasizes their solemnity and quiet purpose, a collective act of devotion. As they draw closer, a close-up on the entrance of a quiet, unassuming church reveals heavy wooden doors, slightly ajar. A glimpse of the dimly lit, hushed interior is afforded, hinting at the sanctuary within. From this sacred space, the faint, distant murmur of a sermon might drift out, words of scripture or guidance spoken in measured tones. Or, perhaps, the soft, collective singing of a hymn rises and falls, a harmonious, comforting sound that speaks of shared faith and communal solace. These sounds, though muted by the distance, are the very heart of Sunday morning, a quiet spiritual anchor in the life of the city. Within the homes, Sunday brought its own distinct rhythms of reflection and domestic peace. Imagine a family gathered quietly in their parlor after the morning service. The room is bathed in the soft, natural light filtering through the window, creating a serene and inviting atmosphere. Perhaps a parent, their posture relaxed, is seated by the window, reading aloud from a large, leather-bound Bible or a well-worn religious text. The children are seated calmly nearby, listening attentively to the stories or quietly looking at picture books, their movements subdued. The atmosphere is one of profound serenity, a shared moment of focus and spiritual nourishment. The only sound might be the soft, rhythmic rustle of turning pages, a gentle counterpoint to the quiet voices and inner contemplations. For others, Sunday offered a rare opportunity for profound personal introspection. Envision a solitary individual, perhaps an elderly woman, sitting peacefully by a window in her own home, gazing out at the quiet street below. Her hands might be folded peacefully in her lap, her expression contemplative, as if lost in thought, reflecting on the week past or the week to come. The visual emphasizes introspection and quiet contentment, a precious moment of profound personal reflection, a time for the soul to breathe freely, unburdened by the demands of labor. The stillness outside mirrored the quietude within. Even the communal aspects of Sunday leisure were distinctly subdued, a gentle contrast to the boisterousness of other days. Picture a quiet stroll in a public park in the afternoon. Families are out, enjoying the fresh air and greenery, but their movements are leisurely, their voices soft, almost hushed. Children play gently, perhaps rolling a wooden hoop along a path rather than engaging in boisterous, shouting games. The air carries the sound of distant, subdued conversations, a low, comforting murmur, and the soft, rhythmic footsteps on gravel paths, a gentle scuffing sound that speaks of unhurried ease. The park, usually a hub of activity on weekdays, became a sanctuary of quiet recreation, a place for peaceful interaction and gentle enjoyment of nature's simple beauty. The Sunday meal, though hearty and comforting, also possessed a unique quietude. Imagine a simple, yet nourishing, Sunday meal being shared in a domestic setting. The table is neatly set, perhaps with a clean, starched tablecloth. The food, often a roasted joint of meat, baked potatoes, and seasonal vegetables, is abundant but unpretentious, prepared with care and love. The sounds are of gentle clinking cutlery against plates, soft murmurs of conversation, and perhaps a low, appreciative hum as the meal is savored. This was a time for quiet connection, for families to gather without the rush of a weekday, to share food and companionship in a relaxed, peaceful manner. As the chapter, and indeed our entire journey, draws to its close, envision a wide, concluding illustration of the city fully embraced by the peace of Sunday evening. The light is fading to dusk, casting long, soft shadows, but the overall sense of peace is deeper, more pervasive, more profound than on a weekday evening. Fewer lights are on in the houses, suggesting earlier bedtimes and a profound sense of rest. The city exhales its last, quiet breath of the week, gathering its strength, preparing for the renewed bustle of Monday, but lingering for a final, precious moment in a profound, almost sacred stillness. The subtle sound of a final, faint church bell toll might be heard, very distant, very soft, fading completely into the encroaching silence, leading us to a deep, pervasive black, inviting a truly restorative and untroubled slumber. Conclusion: the enduring echoes beneath the cobblestones. Our gentle journey beneath the cobblestones now draws to its peaceful close. We have walked the quiet streets of a Victorian city, from the first, delicate stirrings of dawn to the profound stillness of a Sunday night. We have listened to its shifting symphony of sounds, inhaled its varied aromas, felt the textures of its daily life, and glimpsed the humble routines that shape the countless, ordinary lives within its vast embrace. We've explored a world not defined by grand monuments or seismic events, but by the subtle acts of daily existence, the unhurried walk of a commuter, the gentle commerce of the market, the quiet diligence of the workshop, the simple comfort of a midday meal, the calm pursuit of knowledge, and the profound peace of a domestic evening. These were the true foundations of the Victorian city, often unseen, often unheard, yet utterly essential. The lives we have traced were not those of the famed or the powerful, but of the artisans, the shopkeepers, the clerks, the labourers, the homemakers, the unsung many whose quiet perseverance, simple joys, and unwavering routines created the very pulse of that bygone era. Their stories, though rarely written in history books, are etched into the worn cobblestones, whispered in the lingering scents of coal and damp earth, and echoed in the soft clatter of distant hooves. As you drift now into the embrace of deep and peaceful rest, carry with you the tranquil image of this city, ever present beneath its surface hum. Remember the quiet dignity of its inhabitants, their resilience, and their profound connection to the simple, yet powerful, rhythms of daily life. The Victorian city, like all great cities through time, was a symphony of ordinary moments, a testament to the enduring human spirit finding grace and meaning in the quiet art of living. May the enduring echoes beneath the cobblestones guide your mind to a place of profound calm, and lead you to a truly restorative and untroubled slumber. Good night, gentle soul.